Welcome to Stream Detroit. I'm here with Natalia from Vision Boards Co. And we're going to talk about presenting. And the reason why is because I was at Start Weekend and saw Natalia pitch Vision Boards to a panel of judges, and I was really impressed. So I reached out to Natalia and I just wanted to get her on here and share some of your secrets.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm honored that my presentation skills resonated enough with you to welcome me to share some of my tips with the audience. So, if you want me to just dive into it, I'm happy to. I can't say that I've followed any other rules, but I've just kind of developed something that works for me. And the first thing that I wanted to share with the audience, because it was really unique, and I'd love to forward you the YouTube clip. It was a TEDx talk that I saw. And this psychologist researcher actually studied why certain brands and certain people do better than others. Why does Apple kick butt versus some of the other competitors? Why does Martin Luther King resonate as a speaker over others? And what he found was he searched their messaging, and most people actually go on and on talking about how something works and what it does, but they're not leading with answering the question why. And as it happens, our brains actually really resonate with answering why, not the how and the what. And so I kind of challenge everyone to think about, not only their branding, messaging, but presenting with making sure that you lead with why. Why are you doing this? Why does it work? Why does it resonate with you? So that's kind of my first tip, and again, I'll try to forward that link to you because it's an interesting TEDx to watch.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So why? Start with why.
Yeah, he actually showed it's like a target, and most people's brains on the periphery, they'll hear the what, the how, but the nucleus is why. And that's where it really starts to kind of resonate with people. So
you want to start with the why, and then people will be interested in the what and the how.
Yeah,
afterwards.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's tip number one. And obviously, basic 101 would be having talking points, and really very high level, 4 or 5 talking points, so that you kind of either, if you have them on a piece of paper or in your brain, you have some sort of chronology to, the flow of your presentation. That's, pretty simple and straightforward, but it's, needs to be noted that that's, what I do. I make sure that I have some sort of formula, so I feel comfortable with that, and it helps me remember. Because the worst is when you wanted to relay a piece of information and you kind of forgot. So that's the best practice for staying on course for me.
Okay, so you get 4 or 5 high-level pieces of information, and then you somehow anchor that to something, and so that you remember to go through them?
Exactly. As I'm practicing, a presentation in advance, I kind of have the gist of something, but I don't want to memorize too much, because I think being natural and authentic is also a really huge part to presentation skills. I think sometimes people are so practiced and so methodical, that almost rarely resonates with people. It doesn't matter if it's a speech at a wedding or a speech for your career. When you speak from the heart, even if you mess up, people like to see real. They like to see who you are. So, those bullet points act as a guiding, flow, and I kind of rehearse and have what I'm going to say under each of those points, but I leave that a little bit more loose and organic. That's what works for me. And then obviously repetition. I think certain people have certain skill sets. I think communication is one of my strong suits, so I think I do have an edge up over the average person. However, if you gave me a math problem, I'd be in a fetal position. But if you throw me on a camera, and I feel pretty comfortable. But having said that, I think that if it's something that is truly important for your career and something you need to hone, it all comes down to repetition and putting yourself out there. It doesn't matter if you're working out, trying snowboarding for the first time, presenting. The more you do it, the more natural it's going to become. So even if it's behind the scenes, and so just so you know, we had 60 seconds at Detroit Startup Weekend to have that pitch, and they kind of outlined the talking points we wanted to reference. I practiced to my parents that 60-second pitch the week prior probably 100 times.
Really?
Yes. And because I knew it's that, M&Ms, you got one shot there to make it. And I knew I was being judged on that criteria. And even though I feel strongly about my communication skills, I knew that getting all that in within that 60 seconds, that was my shot. And so, yeah, practice makes perfect. Even if you're not good at it, the more you do it, even if it's behind the scenes, that's how you hone it.
Yeah, that actually, I read into some presentation, skills books. I think one in particular is How to Present Like Steve Jobs, which is why I kind of, just to explain a little bit why I tuned into your presentation, because I was like, wow, you just went through all that book's bullet points, and nailed it, every single one. And so one of the things they said he does is the same thing you just said, just practice. He would grab a team from Apple, and he would just pitch at them every day, and they would joke about it and say that, just because he was just doing, oh yeah, we gotta listen to another one of Steve's pitches or something, then. Yeah.
But that's his legacy. I mean, outside of obviously the immense technology he left, most people actually remember him for his presentations, I feel like.
Right.
It's an association with the products that he delivered, but the first thing I think about is him on a stage and giving an amazing, resonating presentation. That's how I remember him most.
So I remember for the Vision Boards presentation, you had a tagline that you started with and that you ended with, and what was it again?
Oh, that, and we might, be adapting it, but for the purpose of that we said, see it, believe it, watch it happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I led with it and ended with it because I also think, it's powerful when you kind of have that conclusion and you bring it back to the beginning. I think that's always a clever thing to do. It kind of just, it has some sort of polish to it that people always like, oh, okay, yeah, they respond to that. So.
Right, yeah. So, you guys were running out of time. It was 60 seconds. Was it 60 seconds there?
Well, we had 5 minutes at the final presentation. 60 seconds for the initial pitch, and then at the conclusion of the weekend, 5 minutes.
Okay, so 5 minutes, you managed to just get it right out there at the end too, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm not trying to suck up here, it was really good.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, having said that, I was, it sounds cheesy, but I was in debate in high school, and I was in certain theater things, so I've been on stage before and I've had to deliver things, and so, I've been in those positions where I've learned what humans respond to, and I've always, kind of known that when you wrap it up and tie it up in a bow, it doesn't matter even if, you kind of have to cut yourself off. If you have a timelet, you wrap it up in a bow, people find that a good polishing factor.
Okay, so we got the why, talk about the why, and then we have repetition, and then before that you said...
The talking points.
The talking points.
High-level talking points, yeah.
Of course, and so what else can we give, somebody who's just starting out?
Yeah, and I also said your authenticity is important. Be yourself. And that might, again, take practice but even if you mess up, people want to see a real person, not a robotic delivery. So the authenticity was something else I spoke to. And then asking yourself, look, hey, everyone has an iPhone. You can record yourself as well while you're practicing.
Right, yeah.
And, that's also probably, if you're not great at it, that's something that can really be a tool for you, is see how you look on camera. How are you, and is your message resonating with yourself? Try to remove yourself from it and say, would this hit me? Would this speak to me? And again, the why and all of those things versus the how and the what. Is it speaking to my spirit in any way? Is it speaking to who I am? Does it get me excited? If it's not, and so many people I've seen a lot of pitches as well, these pitch contests, and some people are so focused and they're just reciting and trying to get as many details out. They're not connecting with the audience. It's sometimes less is more. You want to make sure you're getting the basic messaging out, but what's even more important is selling people on you and the brand. Right. And so, just being really mindful and, obviously you want to capture as much information as possible, but capturing people and interacting with them. And that's another point, obviously, if it's a live presentation, and again, you might have to get used to it, but looking at people. And sometimes, again, it depends if you're under a pitch situation where you only have 5 minutes. But if you have the luxury of time, take your time. Take a pause, regroup. Don't just be, spewing out stuff. Making sure that you're connecting to the audience is obviously an ideal. and as it were, my company, visionboards.co, helps people associate visual imagery to their goals, because the brain responds differently to visual data than just written data. And so it's this kind of new process that's come about in the past 10 years, and we're trying to bring technology and engagement and productivity to that concept. But so obviously I'm going to be a proponent of visualizing your success. So visualize the audience responding to you. Visualize a lot of likes or whatever your end goal is. It's always a strategic plan. Starts from the end game, and you work backwards. So try to do that in so many aspects of your life. It doesn't matter if it's a presentation or anything. What's your end goal? Is it 300 views? Is it 1,000 views? Whatever it is, or is it people clapping and really responding? See that actually happening, and stay in that space for a minute or two. Really indulge in it. And this again applies to more than just presentation. This is really how visualization works for athletes and anything else. You have Michael Phelps would sit there and visualize his perfect swim before any competition, and he would, for 5 to 10 minutes, really envision him hitting that, being the first. And so use that in all methods for your success, and really kind of just visualize it and try to own it.
Right, and just to add to that, visualizing is, just one of the 5 senses, and it always helps me, because I do a lot of that. It helps me to, hear what I would hear, the clapping, for instance, feel what it would feel like, and just get in that mode entirely, and then kind of, go back to step 1 and just work my way back to that. And so I completely hear you, and it's a great tip. As far as presentations go, and like PowerPoints and things like that, which I feel like people use that a lot, and get PowerPoint, always have a PowerPoint behind them and everything. What's your take on preparing for that? And
yeah, I think people overdo it a lot with PowerPoints, and it comes back to they're trying to put a lot of information up there, and so you have to ask yourself, do you want them to be reading and catching up and reading behind you, or listening to what's coming out of your mouth and connecting with you?
Good point. And
what's going to be better for your brand? The answer is actually them connecting with you, because we all come down to wanting to have some sort of connection, and people will remember that over just the content. And so I think that, having said that, there's a huge value add to PowerPoints, and they can, but I think less is more as it relates to that. Very high level things or visual orientation, but make sure that the audience is connecting to you and not just reading behind you.
All right, that's good. So, as far as PowerPoints go, so like just leave out the words, or?
No, I can't even tell you that I have like a strong stance on this. I just, I remember actually reading something about some of the best presenters use 10 slides or less. And most people that have a presentation end up using 20. They double the amount. And so I'm not saying no words or anything like that, but first of all, just don't make it a block of words. Don't make it a paragraph, because it's just not necessary. Unless you need it for your own purposes. No, I'm not saying no words, just condense that. Use that as like a icing on the cake, not the cake. You're the cake, you're the presenter. That should be adding value as necessary, visual aid. Maybe there's a video. It has its purpose, it has its, role, but just, that's just my opinion as well. There's no, wrong or right way. That's just my take on it.
Okay. Is there anything that you would want to close off?
I guess just, like I said, repetition is probably, honestly, the biggest thing that's going to get most people to where they need to be. It's doing it somewhere, somehow, some way, regularly, if it's not a natural skill set. And then, we could bullet point some of the other things that I mentioned. So yeah, I think the 2 biggest things are being yourself and doing it frequently. These other things are nice best practices that will help play a role, but owning yourself and making sure you feel comfortable is, through repetition, is probably the 2 highest things I recommend.
Okay, yeah, and as far as the bullet points go, we'll have them in the show notes and on the website, so you guys can check it out there. And
yeah, and then of course we're actually launching our beta, so I'm a shameless promoter, and I would obviously encourage the audience, visionboards.co. You can go and sign up and give us your feedback on how our web application speaks to you or not.
right, use vision boards to help you provide you a vision for your presentation. Get yourself right in front of that stage.
It's on my vision board. I actually have on my vision board is a microphone, and kind of fogged out is an audience that's standing ovation.
Okay, in case somebody out there doesn't understand what a vision board is, could you give us like a 10-second?
Yeah, traditionally it's a collage of images and sayings that represent your goals. You know, your New Year's resolutions, your yearly goals, your bucket list goals, and you're adding visual orientation. As I mentioned, your brain responds differently to visual data. So it might be a standing ovation with a microphone, if that's something that speaks to you. It could be a trip to Paris is on your wish list for the year, so you have a bunch of pictures of the Eiffel Tower. It could be you want to have your dream car. And so the whole point is when you have those images in front of you regularly, it's an accountability, and it helps you kind of, like we spoke to, visualizing it as yours already. So it's kind of this motivation tool that's different than just writing down your goals and having a due date. It's using a different part of your being and your brain to stay excited about your end goals.
Yeah, it's as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to have a picture than to write 1,000 words.
Yes.
And this has been the presentation, how to present. Thanks for listening, and take care.